Hello, and welcome to the PocketGamer.biz podcast. My name is Rick Cowley, and this is, I think, the 7th episode. I always lose track. I should really make a note of these things before I start the podcast. Joining me today, as always, is Kaylee Partleton.
Hello.
And Matthew Ford.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about all sorts of stuff in the mobile games industry. Stuff like Apple removing unlicensed apps in China. That's finally happening. The rumors around Warner Brothers Games division being sold. The not rumors that Bethesda is teaming up with Amazon Studios to make a TV series based on Fallout, which could be exciting. A bunch of other stuff. But first of all, we're halfway through the year. This is we've only just made it this far. I'm sure we'll make it all the way to the end.
What a half a year.
I mean, we can look back on the last half of the year and we can pretty much sum it up as coronavirus, everyone going into remote working, games getting delayed.
Disaster after disaster after disaster. It feels
just a disaster.
Yeah, it's been... You couldn't write how bad this year has been so far, but I was wondering, does anyone have any predictions as to how the year is going to turn out towards the end? I will go first. I think we're going to see a lot more games getting delayed still.
Yeah,
I think even though everybody started saying, "Oh, we're getting into remote working, we're finally used to it now, got all our processes in place," I still think we're going to see a lot more games slowly getting pushed back until everything ends up bunched up in March 2021 rather than October 2020.
The thing is with the video game industry, a lot of games are not announced until, only a couple months in advance. Nintendo does that, and a few of most companies only do it like maybe it's 6 months or something, or a year. Like, it's very rare. We don't really know the next 3 years of the video game industry, as opposed to the movie industry, which you sort of do have an outline of what movies have been prepared and been worked on. So in that case, I think there will be delays, but we just won't know about them. Yeah,
that's entirely fair. Kaylee, anything that you can see happening over the next 6 months?
Yeah, just lots of delayed games. Just lots of delayed games, and maybe one day being able to walk outside, properly again. Or we might even be living like Fallout. We might all be in shelters before you know it.
That's true, yeah. I did actually have some predictions, because you did mention before, and to get some predictions prepared. So I did have 5, if you do want to hear.
You've got 5?
I got 5.
Bloody hell.
All right, someone's put the work in.
Let's go.
I sort of got like one for each sort of platform, and more every major console manufacturer and Apple and everything like that. So the first one is to do with general play numbers and everything like that. So I think obviously we've got every record being broken at the minute, especially on mobile. Activities is up, revenues up, downloads are up, everything is literally just skyrocketing. So I think that's going to shift down a little bit as the world sort of returns back to normality.
Yeah, that's
whatever
fair.
that is. So I imagine we'll see that over the next coming months, whenever that is. Obviously, different parts of the world are in different states. UK is slowly sort of coming back to normal, but the US is getting worse. So who knows? xCloud integration is my next one. I think that's going to be a big push for Microsoft with the next generation. They've been talking about that a lot more, and obviously they're launching the Xbox Series X. I think that's the next one. Xbox is always one I get confused with. And I'm curious whether Sony are going to have an equivalent. Obviously, they're launching the PlayStation 5, so I wonder if they're going to have anything at all on the mobile front.
I guess they could, because they do have PlayStation Now.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do have you can stream your PS4 games to your phone if you've got your PS4 on and you're on the same network. So they have some systems in place. I just don't know if they would see it as like a useful area to enter. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they used to do it for handhelds, the Vita and PSP and everything, but they don't have them now. So I'm wondering if they will go to mobile in that retrospect. So that's just an interesting one to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
Google Stadia, I believe they're going to come back with something big. Wait, hear me out. I believe they're going to come back with something big. Like, they're going to, especially it's coming up to the 1-year anniversary, they're going to try and rebrand it and be like, this is actually day one. This is everything we've got. But it's going to be too late. I don't think it's going to shift the needle whatsoever. But I do think they're going to launch something big, especially, again, with PlayStation and Xbox launching a new console. Again, they might go down the more mobile aspect. You never know.
I would love it if Google sort of turns around and like retcons it and says, "Oh, it's out of early access now." Oh, did you not realize it's been in early access this whole time?
Just plays it off like, no, it was never a launch. What are you on about? Like, no.
We're now in beta. That was alpha stage.
Yeah, exactly. So Nintendo on Switch, we're definitely going to hear a lot more from them. They've got one game announced majorly at the minute, which is Paper Mario Color Splash, which is due next week.
It's not Color Splash. That was their
not
Wii
Color
U
Splash,
game.
Origami King. Yeah. So I think we'll hear a lot more from them. Not on mobile because they've said they're not, basically nothing's been made from like DNA and everything at the minute. But I do think we'll get lots more Switch mobile titles announced. And the other thing is to do with Apple Arcade. And I've sort of been in the middle about this, saying, are they going to slow down or ramp up? Just because obviously there's been lots of reports of them cancelling games and this sort of thing behind the scenes, not happy with numbers. But I think just knowing Apple's history, I feel they might slow down a bit, which I'll be really disappointed if they do, because Apple Arcade has been amazing, and I think it's been a really fantastic initiative.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting to see like that sort of effort being put into creating premium games and premium experiences on mobile, which is as the rise of free to play happened, it's kind of died down. And we say this, and then premium developers always get annoyed at me when I do, because obviously Minecraft has done fantastically well. The Room series has done really well. Plague Inc. has done fantastically well. So there's still room for premium games. It's just the room for them is so small. And Apple Arcade, I think, has really helped in that regard. I guess Apple's aims with it maybe didn't align with everybody else, because everybody else sort of saw it as like, oh, well, this is a chance for Apple to reintroduce premium games to the market. And Apple's going, yeah, we're going to cut all the production on a bunch of these games because we want ones that people are going to keep coming back for, so they'll renew their subscription fees, which is basically a free-to-play game, but without the name in a way.
Yeah, they did just go quiet on it, I think. They've already done it already. The first 3 months, I thought they made such a big deal about it. I mean, we had Beyond a Steel Sky launch last week, which is a huge title, which was announced at launch. So that finally made its way out. But I don't feel like everywhere I look on the web, I see it, as opposed to it was in the first couple of months. It was like, look, this is a huge new thing. We're pushing it hard. It's very quiet.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, I'm going to reinforce my point about free-to-play, because it is kind of something that they've said, and I've only just really clicked that that's what they meant, is what they want is more games like Grindstone. And obviously Grindstone is amazing, but it's a game that has a lot of scope to just be continually added to and keep drawing people back in, and you play it just a little bit each day, and then you've played it for over a month, and then your subscription renews, and you've actually start paying for Apple Arcade at that point. And that seems to be the kind of games that they're going for, but that's just the free-to-play model with monetization removed, and it's just a subscription service at that point, and then it stops being an interesting service.
But that's like anything though. That's like your PlayStation Plus and your Xbox Live. It's the equivalent, I think, just for mobile.
Yeah. Cool. Right. I don't have a segue for this next part, but we're going to move on to the news now.
I hope you enjoyed them. So.
I did enjoy. Thank you very much for all your predictions. You did far more effort coming into this than I did, which is just to go through our news list over the past 2 weeks and take a look at some of the biggest stories. And obviously the biggest story of the past 2 weeks is that, and I'm going to get this wrong, I'm just going to preface this by saying I'm sorry for getting your name wrong. Supercell co-founder Mikko Kodisoja, no, I didn't even try that time. Mikko Kodisoja, I'm going to go with that.
That sounds good.
That sounds right. I don't know why I said Saya. It was a slip of the tongue. Supercell co-founder Mikko Kodisoja has left Supercell at 10 years after helping co-found it with a bunch of other people. His final day was on June 26th. So the last time we recorded this podcast, and it was kind of at the end of that day that he announced on Facebook. We did also get official confirmation from Supercell, who said that as one of the 6 founders, he's been a key figure in building the culture and values. We greatly appreciate the contributions he's made during the past 10 years. He's not, I would argue, obviously, that he's not like the biggest name at Supercell. When you think of Supercell and you think big names, you usually think the CEO, Ilkka Paananen. But obviously being a co-founder at Supercell means that this guy, has helped lead a revolution in mobile games and create one of the biggest companies in the entire industry, which has only got 5 games and a relatively small team based in Finland. And B, this guy's probably loaded and can do whatever he wants now, which is boss for him. But the thing that I'm sort of interested in, and I'm going to go to you, Matthew, on this one because I've asked you to think about it. Are big changes going to come to Supercell now that we've seen co-founders or just one start to drift off and take on new ventures?
No, to be honest, I don't think so. Just because reading, about Mikko and everything, he left in August 2019 for there was first of all a cancelled unnamed game, which it sounded like it disrupted a little bit in the background, and then he went on paternity leave. So he's actually been out of the picture for quite a while. It's just obviously now he's decided to go on to pastures new and find something outside of mobile games, which we still don't know. So that'll be interesting to see where he actually ends up. But for Supercell, no, I think they'll just continue what they're doing. They've got Hey Pop in soft launch currently. I think as long as they don't cancel that, they did that with Rush Wars, I think it was, last year. So if they're happy with that, they'll go live with that, and then they'll just continue what they're doing. They understand their audience, what they want, and they've continued with that well over a decade now.
I guess the thing for me was like, as you say, there was a cancelled game that he was working on, and in his statement on Facebook, he said he sort of took some time off from that. Rather than throwing himself into a new game, he just kind of potted about and helped out where was needed, and then went on paternity leave, and was already thinking at that point, well, what if I did something else? And I think that's an interesting insight into kind of the mindset of Supercell, because Supercell, as people probably know, it's not based in like a hierarchical style of game development. It's not like the typical thing where you've got the CEO and everybody has to answer to them, and then the person to them, person to them. You have these cells, and it's like a flat level playing field. So you have the game designers, the producers, the narrative writers, all those kind of people are all on the same level, and they work on the games and then present them to the rest of the company. And so so they're obviously working on all sorts of different projects at the same time. And then if that game gets canned, they have to come up with a new idea, and they start again, and they take their learnings and stuff and start all over. Or they join another team and start helping out in there. So I guess it sort of speaks to me that he's kind of had this cancelled game, and at that point gone, maybe there's a different way of doing things. So I'm wondering if maybe after 10 years, we're going to start seeing some of the old boys at Supercell start to go, maybe there is a new way of doing things. Maybe I have been kind of stuck in this style of game development for a while, which clearly works for them, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's vastly different to how game development usually works.
Yeah, I appreciate that Supercell does take its time with games, and they only put out what they believe is quality. They don't rush out a game. They're not afraid to cancel something. And you don't know about this game. It might be something very close to it might be his personal project or something that he spearheaded. The other side of it, 10 years in any industry is a long time. 10 years in the game industry is even longer. So he might just be ready for a change.
That's true. He has sort of revealed some of the things he's been working on, which include, there's the non-profit that he runs with Ilka called We Foundation. There's a movie production company called Cinematic Limited that he's been working with, and the city of Turku is having a infrastructure project that it might involve some sort of cinematic things and games and stuff, and he's sort of helping out on that as well. So there'll be some interesting projects. He has said that he won't be going into games, but we'll be looking at other ways to tell stories, probably through interactive mediums such as mobile. But still interesting. So yeah, Mikko Kodisoja, interested to see what happens next, and best of luck with the future. And no changes at Supercell, says PocketGamer.biz. Moving on. So something I mentioned at the top of the show, Apple is now removing unlicensed apps in China from the start of next month, so August 1st. So this has been a long brewing thing. There was some rumors in February that Apple was going to change how it does regulations in China. The ISBN, as it's sometimes known, or approval number, because ISBNs don't actually work on mobile. It's not the same thing. So the approval number has become more and more important, and now Apple is saying you need to provide one, or else we will just reject your game to be launched in mainland China. Now they're telling developers, if you have a game that has in-app purchases or is a premium game and you don't have an approval number, we will just remove your game in August 1st. It might change things quite drastically. I don't know, Kaylee, what do you think? Is this going to be a big problem for developers, like overall?
Overall, I don't think it's going to be a major issue. At this point, I think they've had warning.
Mm.
They had a few months. This was obviously going to happen when the rumor started circulating. Plus, it's Apple. I'm not overly surprised that this is what they're doing. And developers have got a couple of options available to them. Of course, neither of them are actually ideal. Like, first of all, your way around it could be to not have it listed as a game, but Apple would have to approve that. So whether that actually work out for you or not, God only knows. or do the I say simple thing, but it's probably not, is get the license. It's I don't think it's going to have a massive impact long run. Developers are going to adapt to it, but at the moment, it might be a bit iffy for some of them, but they've had warning. They've had months to prepare themselves.
That is true. I guess the main problem with getting a license is, I believe estimates are something between 6 to 12 months to actually get the license. And that China actually only approved like 1,500 games across mobile, PC, console for the entirety of last year. So actually getting that license, you might never get one.
Yeah, it's part of a bigger issue, isn't it?
Yeah, particularly with like the thousands and thousands of other games that you're going to be competing with. Like I think the Switch still only has like 5 games because they need to be approved to get on in China.
It launched with New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, and I think that was it for like 2 months.
Yeah, I think it had that and Mario Odyssey as well.
Yeah, I think eventually, yeah.
Yeah, so there's big problems anyway with China. So App in China, who have been tipping us off on this, and thank you very much for that, folks, have also suggested that developers could just make it, well, I say could make a free version of the game, because games that only monetize through ads are not covered by the need to have a registration number yet. That could change. We never know. So what they're suggesting is that developers remove all monetization from their games, throw in some ads instead, and then release that in China and tell everybody, hey, come play our Chinese game. If you're here, it doesn't have any ads, we can't license it properly, and then start working on getting the license for the full game. But I believe you'll still have to take down your ad game to get the license for the premium game or IAP game. It's all very confusing. Matthew, you sort of curled up your face a little bit over the idea of ripping out monetization, replacing it with ads.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? Like anybody that wants to play these games in China, to be splattered with ads instead of, going through the traditional monetization that the rest of the world's getting hold of. And it just speaks to, again, a bigger issue in China. There's, it's one of the biggest markets, definitely. So it's up to developers if they actually want to cater to this and take, these measurements into account and see, the thing is with China, there's now I've lost my place here.
I think it's sort of a cost benefit analysis that you got to do is like how many downloads are you going to lose by not launching in China, and how much money are you actually going to lose compared to how much time and effort and money is it going to take to make the game available to China, because you also have to think about like localization issues, because I believe there's rules where you can't have a single word of English in there. That's just outright banned. You can't have skeletons shown in the game, which makes you wonder how Brawl Stars got out over there, because it's like one of the characters you play as is a skeleton. So I'm curious about that. And yeah, all this kind of stuff. So you have to not only think about localizing the game super well, but you also now have to think about how long is it actually going to take to release in the region. And I think a lot of smaller developers who don't have the money, don't have the time, don't have the resources are just going to stop. And I think we're going to see like possibly a death of indie developers in China on the mobile space. So that'll be not fun, but we'll still see. I think obviously Tencent's going to get an easy ride on this one because they are already huge in China, relatively easy, obviously. And NetEase and all the big Chinese developers are already going to get there. We've already seen Supercell has jumped through all the hoops and got Brawl Stars released over there recently, and they've gone through the approval process and everything like that. So I think we'll still see big name games making that effort. I think we're going to see a lot of the smaller games start to go away, which I think will be an interesting shift. So yes, interesting time to be releasing a game in China. We will actually be having a PocketGamer.biz roundtable next week to discuss this with a few publishers and other people related to the Chinese market. Do check out that. It will have a page on Eventbrite at some point, and I'll have a news story about it at some point. We're still just sort of working out the details with some of the people. Moving on from that, Warner Brothers. So I feel like we probably mentioned this last week because this is kind of a relatively old story now. It's been a few weeks ago now that who is it? Who owns Warner Brothers? Is it AT&T? Yeah, AT&T started saying they were going to sell the Warner Brothers Games division, and it was going to look for about $4 billion. We've now seen reports that Microsoft is apparently lined up to buy it, or is interested at least. We've also seen interest from Activision, Blizzard, EA, and Take-Two, all of whom, enormous companies who would definitely benefit from buying Warner Bros. Kaylee, is it on the one hand, is it really worth $4 billion? Because that seems like, I mean, obviously Warner Brothers games are huge, but I feel like you're not getting the licenses for those games. Do you think it's worth that much? If you had $4 billion, would you buy Warner Brothers games?
No, I wouldn't, because it's not coming with the licenses. Batman's not coming with it. So, and obviously Batman is one of their biggest IPs. Then you've got Mortal Kombat. You've got, they have the Harry Potter IP as well, I believe.
They do. Is that confirmed then? They're not getting the licenses. I thought it was all.
Yeah, it's confirmed. They're not getting Batman.
I thought it was just the games that were in development. I thought it was potentially going. Obviously, it was just. I didn't know if it was the Batman games they were working on and stuff like that.
It's still kind of, because it's all rumors and stuff. So
yeah, that's what I mean. It's all up in the air at the minute.
Yeah, so as according to this article that we wrote, it's projects tied to the Warner Brothers IP, such as Batman Arkham series and Harry Potter, are not part of the deal. So I guess it's the IPs as a whole do not come as part of that, because I guess they are still licensed to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers, I'm sure, will continue to make a lot of money by licensing those out to anybody they want.
So that's the plan, wasn't it? To license the products out again, probably afterwards. It's the studios, isn't it, that they're looking at buying? Is that right?
Yeah.
So like your Rocksteadies and everything like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kaylee.
That's all right.
But yes, so you've got developers like Rocksteady, like Kaylee. Are they going to be worth this amount of money if they don't have the licenses attached?
I wouldn't spend $4 billion on them. They're certainly capable of making some fantastic games, and I've got no doubt that they will. You've just got to look at the roster of games that have been made from the studios through Warner Brothers, and they are fantastic. $4 billion worth when you're not getting those massive IPs? No, probably not. Not for me anyway.
I guess the hope would be for anybody who did buy the Warner Brothers games division was they'd have an easier time of licensing these games. Maybe get a sweet deal and just say, hey, we paid $4 billion for those game developers. You mind if we have Harry Potter just a little bit cheaper?
A little bit of a discount.
Yeah. And I guess the other question is, we've got EA, we've got Take-Two, Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft queuing up to take a look. Who would you prefer owned them? And
that's easy.
Okay, go on.
I'd like to see Microsoft get them.
Fair enough.
Or Take-Two would be my second option. I don't want EA to get them.
I don't want EA or Take-Two. No, none of them.
What's wrong with Take-Two?
Well, what they've been doing recently with upgrading. The debate that's going around with £70 for the next generation of games and everything, and then they've been offering was it the Mamba edition, which is going to be $100 to upgrade from the current generation to the next generation games. I don't think it's great personally. No, Microsoft I think are by far the best option out of this. It'd be great to see, it will be the Mortal Kombat, but the licenses. We'll see what happens. Those studios specifically underneath, WB Montreal's, your Rocksteadies, everything like that. It feels like it's a way off. It doesn't feel like this is going to be something we're going to see happen this year. I think they're just putting out feelers for the minute to see who's interesting, and then it'll be a slow thing. To put it in perspective, because I just did a quick Google, Disney bought Lucasfilm for $4.05 billion. So
and that came with Star Wars.
Exactly.
Which they monetized the hell out of.
Yeah, I mean, the Mortal Kombat series and everything like that, and Batman, if they can get into that somehow, are huge. Even on mobile, they did reasonably well to some extent. They did the Injustice 2. That was one of the last ones that came out.
Yeah.
The big names, and they are quality studios. They make terrific games, both critically and from a fan perspective.
I guess critics and fans are the same, but they also make a lot of money. Everyone's a critic these days, including us, because we are games journalists. That was a silly thing to say. Let's move on to something else. Bethesda are another big company. Maybe they could buy Warner Brothers. No, that would be ridiculous. But what they are doing is teaming up with Amazon Studios and Kilter Films, who I've never heard of before, but presumably the production company owned and operated by Jonathan Nolan, who co-wrote the Batman films, brother of Christopher Nolan, who does the Batman films. And he also has done Person of Interest, which I think a lot of people forget about, is really good, and Westworld, which we'll come on to in a second because it's hilariously ironic. They're all now working together on a Fallout TV series for Amazon Prime, presumably because Amazon Studios is involved. Todd Howard has said that over the last decade, we've looked at many ways to bring Fallout to the screen, but it was clear from the moment I first spoke with Jonah and Lisa a few years ago, they and the team at Kilter were the ones to do it right. We're enormous fans of their work, and we couldn't be more excited to work with them and Amazon Studios. Matthew, how do you feel about a Fallout TV series?
Pretty excited. I'd actually like to see what this looks like. I don't know what angle they go for. We actually discussed it a little bit on the Pocket Gamer podcast, the consumer one. So
the lesser podcast. Yeah. Don't tell James I said
that. And you know, they could potentially go for like the zombie aspect, like the post-apocalyptic world, which it's been done to death. So I wonder if they'd go for more of like the actual vault aspects and do maybe like, it'd be cool to get like Black Mirror sort of stories behind each vault. So say this is like Vault 47, and then you do one episode of that, and then move on and do a different vault and something like that. But who knows? I mean, as you mentioned, there is massive irony with a Fallout TV series coming from Amazon, considering Fallout is a game about massive capitalism and all that, and now it's Amazon. And then the other ironic thing, which was that being made by Jonathan Nolan for Westworld, but Fallout Shelter, there was a clone of it, or an alleged clone.
Let's not go throwing around words like clone. We already got dragged into their lawsuit on this one. Let's not get further dragged in.
To use their quote, a blatant rip-off of it was a Westworld game, which was a rip-off of Fallout Shelter. So it's a very, very ironic.
Yes, it is wonderful to see. I don't know, Kaylee, you're interested in Fallout, I assume?
Oh, I love Fallout, absolutely. But I agree with Matt. I actually think you should be working on this one because I completely agree with your vault idea.
Yeah, actually, that was kind of baller.
I totally agree with that one. The zombie thing, that's everywhere, and The Last of Us is getting a TV series, and that's obviously going to be post-apocalyptic, and it's going to be zombies.
Yep.
So I think it would be a bit silly for Amazon Prime to try to compete with a HBO series that's going to be about zombies when there are other angles that they could take with it.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that they'll just go the traditional Fallout route, and it's just about a lone wanderer in the plains going from town to town, solving problems and that kind of thing, which would just be a Western, but in post-apocalypse world.
Do you think like when the series launches, it's going to like glitch now and then and like skip 2 episodes forwards and back like most Fallout games on launch?
The actors will just suddenly appear in a random spot and get killed by a Deathclaw. That would be
like a car
amazing.
Appearing in their room or something like that. Yeah.
I'd be hooked. I'd watch that just for the laughs.
They enter a bar and everybody's just got like Nuka-Cola bottles for heads. That would be fantastic. I don't think that's what would happen. But Jonathan, if you're watching this, Jonathan Nolan, big fan of PocketGamer.biz, I hear. You can have that one for free. Probably.
Whoa, didn't say that. Hey.
Just put Matt's name in the credits. It'll be fine. Speaking of, no, I can't think of a segue for this one. Let's just move on to a different topic. Niantic, the other big mobile game developer. There's lots of them, but Niantic's are pretty big. They have finally soft launched their next location-based augmented reality game, Catan World Explorers, based on the board game Settlers of Catan. I really do not know what to make of this one because this is just weird to me. It involves harvesting supplies such as lumber, wool, grain, brick, and ore, and then constructing buildings. Sounds a bit like Minecraft Earth, although I've not played Minecraft Earth, so I can't say for any certainty. But yeah, it seems like you'll be gathering resources, using it to build locations. Probably it's all built on the same Niantic real world platform that the other games are built on, and there's been licensed out to other developers. Yeah, this is just such a weird thing. But Matt, do you think this could be the game that finally topples Pokemon Go?
No. That's a bit polite. I mean, nothing's going to topple Pokemon Go. It celebrated its 4th anniversary this week, and it's just going from strength to strength. You know, it's nearly doubled. No, sorry, not nearly doubled. It's nearly matched its first year revenue when, you know, it was a ginormous buzz and, you know, it literally took over the world.
We could go outside and play it properly.
Yeah, which is completely ironic because we're in literally the most opposite circumstances this year. And, you know, I think that's such a testament to Pokemon Go, how this year they've managed to earn that amount of revenue, considering literally a game designed where you're supposed to go outside and play. You cannot go outside and play. Everyone's stuck in. So that's really impressive. Catan, I'd never heard of the board game before Niantic announced this.
You're kidding me.
No,
really?
I haven't. No, never heard of it.
Good grief.
So I don't know. Maybe I live under a rock or something. But
so Matthew, it's been a pleasure working with you, but I am gonna have to ask for your PocketGamer.biz badge and gun on this one.
Go on, educate me then. What's it about? Because I've never played it or heard of it.
I mean, I played it once. I don't remember it very well. It's like Kaylee, back me up tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like you have like hexagons and you have to build a world together with your other players by linking these together. Like it's kind of like playing a deck of cards, but you're playing little hexagons and joining up match areas, and then building resources like that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's essentially it.
Okay, cool. I always get it confused with Carcassonne for obvious reasons, but I think that plays very differently.
No idea.
My God, the youth of today.
But like seriously, but what is like? This is the big question. Who is this game for, audience-wise? Is it? Is it a big game in Asia? Is that because obviously if they crack Asia with it, obviously it could do massive. But I generally just don't know.
I have no idea if Catan is popular outside of Europe, because it is one of those like classic European board games. Really, that's, you know, there's loads of digital adaptations on mobile and stuff, courtesy of Asmodee. So it's just such a weird license to use. Of all the licenses they could possibly get, like Niantic could just get anybody at this point, and they got Catan, and it's like, what? Yeah,
well, as you just mentioned, if it is Europe, that's this one of the smallest markets to go for, you know, the US and Asia and everything like that. And as you say, to go from Pokemon to Harry Potter to Catan, it's not on the same level. I mean, for me anyway. I'm not in the board gaming world, unfortunately. I need to get into it. So I have started playing Scrabble recently. So
wow, get you. The old Scrabble.
I know, right, old man. So
next Niantic game is Dream Phone, the Ultra board game. No laughs from that one. I'm so disappointed. How do you not know what Dream Phone is? Okay, stop the podcast.
There'll be one guy out there who just chuckled and he's like, "Yes, Rick, you get me."
Thank you to that one guy who just chuckled. Look, so listen, it's a board game, and what you have to do is guess which one of the boys fancies you, and to do that, you have to randomly call up lots of different boys.
Oh my God!
And they on an actual phone, like a toy phone, and they tell you details about the person who doesn't fancy you, and then you have to cross them off. It's kind of like Cluedo, but then you're finding your teenage love, who will then, if you guess correctly, invite you to prom or something.
This sounds very stalkerish.
Yeah.
I mean, now I never want to play it again, which makes me very sad. Anyway, if any developers want to make a Dream Phone game on mobile, I think that would actually work really well, because you have a mobile in your hand. It could be a bit like a normal Lost Phone, only less dark and serious. Speaking of games on mobile,
wow!
I did real good that time. I actually tried. PUBG Mobile is a game that is on mobile. As the name implies, it has recently cleared $3 billion in lifetime revenue, according to Sensor Tower. Kaylee, you wrote the story for this. I'm going to just kind of throw it to you a bit to explain a bit more about this, because otherwise there might not be much left to talk about. But Kaylee, yes, $3 billion. Big number, excitable number?
Oh yeah, bloody, that is a big number when you think back in
Can
December.
confirm, big number.
Back in December, they were on 1.5 billion. So in just 7 months, they've doubled.
Yeah.
Doubled their revenue, which is insane. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain Game for Peace, obviously the localized version in China, actually makes up like 52% of it. So that's that in itself is absolutely insane.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
1.6 billion generated, which is wild, as you say. Well, obviously we can't play Game for Peace. It's the one that's localized for China, where they removed all the violence, and when you kill somebody, they salute you and then vanish and turn into a box, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
The thing that I'm curious about is like, what's changed? Like, what other than the coronavirus?
I was going to say
That's it.
literally
We're all
that,
stuck
yeah.
indoors.
Yeah.
That's what's changed.
But that's that question answered.
But it's like, as we mentioned earlier on, it's one of them games that has peaked at this moment because of world events. Everyone's stuck inside. Everyone's playing more games, and then in the coming months, as everyone starts to go back outside, it will then go back
Tear
down.
off a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I imagine it'll maintain. You know, it's a huge game, PUBG. I imagine it'll continue to bring in a lot of money, but I don't think this amount again.
The interesting thing I think about that supposition that you keep coming back to, Matt, is the idea like, you know, once we start going outside, people will stop playing games. And I think what's interesting to me about that is like a lot of developers, I think, are sort of suggesting that now attitudes will have changed towards games and more people are playing games and it's new people playing games that's more interesting. And if people are changing their attitudes and behaviors now, we're going to end up seeing people continue to play those games and we'll still see higher revenues. But I'm interested to see like what you think about like that and regards to revenues going to drop.
In the long haul, yes, I do agree. I think this has definitely introduced more people to gaming as a whole. But on the flip side of that, you know, especially the first few months, people that play games more than anyone else are more likely to go outside because they've been stuck inside all this time. So I think there will be that drop there, and that's where we'll see it.
Yeah, I guess I imagine it'll be less than what it is now, but I think we're going to see overall, you know, rising tides of revenues.
Yeah,
and also in the world because climate change. Anyway, I think we've talked about all we could talk about with PUBG. I just thought that was a big number, and I like talking about big numbers. So we'll move on to our final thing, and I feel it's like a slightly shorter podcast, but it's been. If you want to find out even more about all the stuff we've written about, do check out PocketGamer.biz. But we'll finish on a high note and something that was announced about 2 hours ago from when this was recorded. Crash Bandicoot on the Run is finally announced. So this has kind of been teased a little bit through various leaks. So there was Facebook ads that were kind of testing the waters on the idea.
Soft launched.
It was soft launch, yes. And, you know, but there wasn't anything sort of said about it. It was kept kind of under wraps, as much as, you know, soft launch can be kept under wraps. Yesterday we saw Wednesday the 8th, we saw a Twitter account start to post about like loading and sharing different things. And then now today we have a new trailer and you can now pre-register on Google Play. So Crash Bandicoot on the Run, from what we can tell, is a 3-lane auto runner starring Crash Bandicoot. It's the first time I think there's been a Crash game on mobile. No, it's not true, is it?
No, the racing games hit mobile.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's the first time there's been like a platforming game. And
one specifically for mobile, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, this is Activision Blizzard testing the waters and using King, who would traditionally make, you know, match 3 puzzlers and stuff. And you're now using this to make a Crash game and see if a licensed game with the Activision Blizzard classic licenses, such as Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, etc., will hold any water on mobile. Kaylee, you strike me as somebody who likes Crash Bandicoot.
I love Crash Bandicoot.
So how do you feel about a 3-lane auto runner on mobile?
Spoiler alert, it will be Game of the Week that week when it comes out.
No matter, even if it barely runs, Game of the Week.
Yeah, it'll be Game of the Week just because it's Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot on the Run that doesn't run.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my title.
Perfect. No, but like, do you think this is going to be, I mean, presumably you've been following the game because you have an interest in Crash Bandicoot. I imagine you've seen the trailer today. Does this seem like something that you're going to play, that you're going to play for a long time? Is this going to be a huge thing, or is this going to go away very quickly?
See, me personally, I am going to play it, and I will probably play it for quite a while because massive Crash fan. I think the fact that it is Crash Bandicoot is going to attract a lot of people, at least to begin with. He's huge. He's one of the biggest mascots in gaming. Everybody knows who Crash is.
It's not that big. He's only a marsupial. They're like, sorry.
He's so cute.
In the West, yes. I think.
Yeah. And the thing, like, I think on our last podcast we mentioned things with like Nintendo and mobile, and how their mobile games can help main entries. And Crash Bandicoot has got another main entry coming out later this year. So Crash 4, It's About Time, comes out, I think probably around October, November time. And this game, I think it's going to be, it will benefit from that, and at least it's... So I think to begin with, you can have a lot of fans, that Crash Bandicoot fans are going to try it anyway, and then you've got the next major installment coming out, which is going to give a bit more hype to the game anyway. And Crash has just been on the rise since his remaster, like in 2017. Everyone's gone Crash nuts, and then CTR got remastered, and again, there's just so much hype around Crash, and I could spend hours talking about him. So he to me is Nintendo to Matt.
But where are his jorts, though? Does he have jorts in this one?
Don't think so.
No, I think he's got beach shorts.
Yeah.
Ugh, he needs jorts. That's the whole point of Crash Bandicoot.
He needs the jorts.
See, I'm a massive Crash Bandicoot fan as well. I obviously grew up like many people in the 90s. You know, the original trilogy, which got remastered as remade as the Insane trilogy, which was an amazing job from. I can't remember the name of the developers now. It'll come back to me in about 10 minutes, annoyingly. But anyway, King, the thing for me is it's King taking on the license, which they don't traditionally do, as you mentioned, endless runners. And there's a specific feeling with Crash games that you have to nail, which they got in the Insane trilogy. There wasn't really in the in-between period when Activision got the license and everything from Naughty Dog. And it is an endless runner. It's how the platforming feels. And that I mean, for me, but that's that and its monetization, because Crash has had a bad history with this. You know, you mentioned Crash Team Racing, was it Nitro Fueled or whatever, that came out on Switch and everything. That was a bad case because it came out, what was it, the first month, no monetization basically, and it was, you know, it's a full 30, I think it was £30 in the UK, so $40. And then a month after, Activision implemented lots of like you know, loot box mechanics, that sort of thing for the online and everything like that, which, you know, wasn't great, and they didn't even have to put that on the packaging as a result, which is really, really bad practice. Obviously, this being on mobile, it does have those practices. It will be interesting to see how they do deal with that, and if it's too over the head. You know, the pre-registration already speaks to you get a blue skin of Crash himself if you do. So it's like, how many more of them are going to be? How much more? Is it actually just going to be a game that I can play through without the need to, you know, feel like I have to be nickel and dimed along the way? And is it going to feel, you know, quintessentially Crash? Endless Runner is perfect choice for Crash on mobile. Absolutely. You know, you can't believe this wasn't done like 5-10 years ago. It's just how it's implemented, and as I say, there is a specific feeling to Crash games, I think.
I think it's going to be fairly light on monetization. I feel, because so in the trailer it announces like customizable characters, and it shows off the blue hyena skin that you get if you pre-register. So I imagine it'll be, you know, unlock a skin, but I don't know if it'll give you any special powers or anything. And it has like multiplayer options, so you can play with your friends. I don't know if that's going to be live multiplayer or leaderboards or something like that. But, you know, it'd be weird if they started like selling skins and then it was like, oh, but it gives you a boost over games, and then it moves into the whole pay to win argument. I feel like with King at the helm, they've had years and years of experience making mobile games and monetizing mobile games. And they still are making tons of money with Candy Crush Saga, which I would argue doesn't have like really harsh monetization mechanics. I haven't played it in a while. I could be very wrong. But it still makes a ton of money. So I think, you know, I agree, like, the Activision has handled monetization poorly before, in some of its games, particularly on console. I think if King are in charge and if they, have the full control over how this game is being made, I think then we're going to see a game that monetizes well. That all said, I have seen rumors dotted about on the internet and other places reporting that it does have like wait timers and stuff, and it will block your progress from playing forwards.
Yeah.
And as your reactions show, it's still not a great thing to have in a mobile game, is to get to a point and then say, okay, you can't play anymore until you wait 8 hours or give us £2 or something like that. So I'm a little bit worried that that's going to be the case, but we shall see. Because
Vicarious Visions. That's who developed the. That's who developed the Insane trilogy. There you go. Carry on.
No, that was it. I'm glad that you finished that off. Was it Vicarious Visions or was it Toys for Bob?
I thought it was Toys for Bob.
Yeah, Toys for Bob.
No, they're doing the new one.
No, I'm sure it's Toys for Bob.
I will put
20 quid on the table. It was Vicarious Visions.
Right, it's definitely
Google
Toys
it.
for Bob though. So
right, we're googling this.
Google it. I'm sure it's Toys for Bob.
This is podcast death, but yes,
Toys for Bob was Spyro.
They did do
They
Spyro,
did Crash as well.
but they did do Crash as well, and I am fairly certain they did the
I'm pretty certain they did it.
Nitro Fueled or whatever it was.
Maybe on Switch.
I'm Googling this.
Developed by Vicarious Visions. Thank you.
Wow, okay. We've all been fed a
Really?
lie.
Yeah. Money in the post. Thank you.
We are all now furiously Googling Vicarious Visions to make sure that they did it. As we all look this up.
Toys for Bob was a developer too.
On which one?
It says right here, Toys for Bob as well.
We're both right. I mean, the Wikipedia literally says it's developed by Vicarious Visions and published by Activision.
It says it also has Toys for Bob written here.
I don't know where you're looking. I'm on Wikipedia.
Yeah, I was on Wikipedia and it had Toys for Bob before I clicked on it.
Hang on.
Come on, Rick, be the deciding vote here.
I am the deciding vote because I've on the Wikipedia page now myself. The original PS4 release was Vicarious Visions.
And
The
it was
port, the port to PC, Switch, and Xbox One would have it was just the Switch one that was developed by Toys for Bob. Iron Galaxy did the port to Windows, and Vicarious Visions did the port to Xbox One. So technically, we're all right.
Okay.
And we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on this podcast, which we totally murdered at the end there by spending 3 minutes Googling who developed a game that is not available on mobile on our mobile gaming podcast. It was on Switch. I'll give you that. Yes, if you want to find out more about the stories that we spoke about, just stories that we spoke about on the podcast, do check out PocketGamer.biz. I presume that's why you're here watching the podcast anyway. But if you're not reading our website, please do. It's really good. We're all putting our all into it. We're doing loads of other stuff as well. As previously mentioned, we've got a roundtable next week on July the 14th at 10 a.m. BST. So totally out of range if you're in the US, but it will be available on YouTube afterwards. We're going to be talking about publishing in China towards the end of the month. I think on the 28th of July at the normal time of 4 p.m. BST, we'll be discussing the death of the IDFA with some people who actually understand it, because I don't really know what it is. So I'm excited to learn more. But yes, advertising and ad tracking and personalized ads on Apple and iOS are going to be very different. We're going to find out all about it. We do have Launchpad from PocketGamer.com, which is the big consumer thing that we're running, which we're all very excited about. If you're a developer, I don't know if you can still get involved, but go check out PocketGamer.com. There's a banner at the top that was explaining it, and we're going to be announcing a bunch of games in partnership with a bunch of developers. It's going to be super fun, super exciting, and I'm really interested to see how we go about it. And if you're looking for your usual Pocket Gamer Connects content, Pocket Gamer Connects Helsinki will be going entirely digital this year. That will be held in September. Somebody remind me of the date. I think it's September 14th to 18th that we will be doing that. Pocket Gamer Connects Helsinki. He desperately Googles. But yes, that'll be another one of the wonderful events that we do. September 14th to 18th. I was right. I never should have doubted myself. So talks, panels, roundtables, all that kind of good stuff. And we'll be there writing it all up in a few months' time. And we also have the top 50 list coming up. So we're going to be doing something big to celebrate that. Not entirely sure yet what it will be. but we are working on hammering out the details. We're still coming out with a date. Thank you to everybody who submitted their companies for consideration. We will be taking those into consideration over the coming weeks, coming up with a short list and announcing that in the next few months. So do keep a lookout. We are doing so much at PocketGamer.biz. It is wild. We are super, super busy, and it's all for you, our wonderful readers and listeners and viewers of the podcast. And with that mentioned and all the things talked about, it's left to me to say goodbye to Matthew.
Goodbye.
Goodbye to Kaylee.
Bye.
And goodbye to myself as I close this Zoom call. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.